If you want to be more efficient and effective while running your business with more inner peace, then working on the core of your issues instead of putting on a band-aid is vital. Welcome to the Business Brain Podcast.
I'm your host, Esty Rapport, and here to help you improve your 28 cognitive functions, the 28 things that make up thinking. In each episode, we'll discuss a real-life challenge, why you might be struggling with it, and give you practical strategies so all areas of your life will improve.
You've tried setting boundaries in the past, but people don't listen. It's time to set clear, healthy boundaries that actually work. That's what's coming up next on the Business Brain Podcast, episode 403. But first, screenshot this episode and share it on Instagram stories. Don't forget to tag me at Life Peaks University so I can thank you personally and give you a shout out. Now, for today's real life challenge, imagine you have a client who likes to call you any hour of the day or night. He knows he's really only allowed to call you between 9 to 5, but recently it's been getting as late as 11 p.m. This is starting to take a toll on your own mental health and personal life. You might be struggling with boundaries if your weak cognitive functions of labeling, being precise, and showing self-control. Out of the 28 thinking skills, the 28 cognitive functions, these are the 3 that you need to use the most to set clear boundaries. So that way people will really listen to you. So let's break it down. We're going to go through each one of them. Labeling. Labeling is about using labels correctly for items, ideas, places, etc. In order to set a clear boundary, you need to be able to label all parts of the boundary really clearly. People may not understand your labels, so you'll have to explain them accordingly, as a lot of labels depend on culture, how they grew up, or even assumptions. So going back to our example, this is what it would look like. Clients can call during normal business hours, which are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, except for emergencies, which include getting more than 10 hate emails from one broadcast or losing more than 3% of subscribers from one email. Notice how I explained in that example what an emergency is, because I could just say, except for emergencies, but my emergencies are different than your emergencies. So I am being very explicit. I am explaining what my labels are. Let's give another example. I have a meeting in the conference room 3 from 2 to 4 p.m. Do not come in or knock on the door during that time. And here you are once again labeling conference room 3. You're labeling which conference room we're talking about, and you're being really explicit about what not disturbing is, including knocking the door. This brings us to the next cognitive function, being precise. You've got to be precise in your labels and words in general. The more explicit and more precise you are about your boundaries, the more people will be able to listen to them. In the previous example, I didn't just say hate emails. I said if you get 10 hate emails, I am being precise about it. Otherwise, someone who gets 2 hate emails will consider that emergency and will do whatever they can to contact me, even if it's 11 p.m. In the second example, I added in don't knock on the door because I know it will happen. It actually just happened to me the other day when I was on a podcast, and the podcast host had specifically told someone, do not disturb me, locked the door, and went in to do the podcast recording. And during the podcast recording, knocked on the door. The more precise, the more explicit, the more you explain it, the easier it is for people to understand what you specifically mean. Okay, which brings us to cognitive function number 3, showing self-control. Showing self-control is the cognitive function that will need to be used a lot when people test your boundaries, because people will. You've got to show self-control and not fall into it when they test it. They are going to do this a lot in the beginning, especially if your boundaries in the beginning were wishy-washy. But over time, they will learn, and you will learn, and it will become a whole lot easier. The client that calls you at 8 p.m. about getting 3 hate emails, don't respond, even or especially if you are available. because next time they're going to call you again and you're not going to be available and they're going to be even more mad. And it is right now your responsibility to use the cognitive function of showing self-control and not answer them. Okay. One more thing you've got to understand. You may be thinking you are setting a clear boundary. Because of the other person's weak cognitive function, they may struggle to understand them. It is your responsibility to understand them and talk to them in a way that they understand. So if they aren't listening to your boundary, take the time to figure out why are they not understanding? Why are they not listening? Just like we spoke about previously, most people aren't bad people. There is some sort of disconnect, and you, setting the boundary, want to make sure that you are helping them. You are making it as easy as possible for them to be able to listen to the boundary you are setting. Once you understand this concept and actually implement it, setting boundaries will be a whole lot easier. In today's episode, we spoke about the 3 main cognitive functions required to set boundaries: labeling, being precise, and showing self-control. Labeling everything and being precise when you set the boundary, and showing self-control when they try to test your boundary. Your challenge this week is to set a clear boundary using these 3 cognitive functions. Have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll see you next week.
That's all for this episode of the Business Brain Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with 2 of your business friends so they too can gain from it, and you'll be helping us reach our goal of 1 million downloads by the end of 2025. Cheers to peak brain performance.